All right, folks. Here we are. I think we are live. I got a weird error message on Zoom, but I'm checking out the Facebook page and it looks like we are live indeed. So I'm so glad that everyone has joined us tonight to gain some more information about the CCP exam. And I'm happy to welcome Nathan Aldridge and Jamie Pung, our ACS industry staff person, is also on the call. So welcome everyone. This is meant to be informative, but also interactive. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop those questions in the chat and we will try to address those towards the end of the call. So Nathan, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tara. And thank you, Jamie. Hey, everybody. My name is Nathan Aldridge, and I am a proud ACS CCP. I earned my certification, I think, back in 2018. So I've had it for a few years, and I'm very proud to have it. So I want to welcome everybody who's out there wanting to learn more about what is the CCP exam? Why do we have it? How do we go about studying for it? Today is going to be a great day for learning. And at the end, we will have time for everybody to ask questions. And if you have questions, please use the chat feature. We've got Jamie there manning that for us. Okay. So our goal. So do you know cheese? And also, there may be a few of you out there watching, wondering, should I take it this year? Am I ready for it? I want to let you know that you are. If you've been working in cheese for a while, if you're passionate about it, you can take this exam. So let's get to it. Our goal with the ACS certification program is to increase the level of knowledge in the cheese industry and provide a way to recognize individuals who show via the exam their knowledge of the whole industry. The exam covers aspects from the industry, from cheese making to getting cheese into customers' hands and into customers' mouths. So what this entails is from A to B. This goes from dairy farming to actually making a cheese board. This is the whole kit and caboodle right here. So it's a lot of information that it does cover. It was launched back in 2012. To support the artisan cheese industry by fostering education and recognizing the skills, the professionalism, and the knowledge of individuals working across all domains of the industry. So what I'm saying here is this is not a cheesemonger test. This is not a cheese maker test. This is an exam for industry professionals all across the board to be on the same level. That's what we're going for. The exam evaluates knowledge and skills required to perform specific job activities related to working in cheese. So today, we're going to cover a lot. Like I said earlier, we're going to talk about, preparing for the exam. We're going to talk about the exam day, what to expect when taking the exam. I may give you some personal notes from me taking the exam. We're going to actually go through 3 exam examples. We got 3 example questions that we're going to go through, and I'll dive into each one of them, as well as the post-exam day. What happens right after the exam? So then, I've got my certification. What now? And then we'll also talk about recertification, and then we'll give you time to ask questions, and hopefully I can answer them. If I can't, we've got some other professionals on here to help me out. First thing to get going with is certificate versus a certification. This is kind of a big deal where, a certificate may be granted after completing an academic program of study. You study your study course, supplied materials, and then you are tested. And that's a certificate. This is a certification. This is a professional credential that is earned through an assessment. So with that, the exam taker is being assessed on their expertise in all aspects of cheese production, from the animal breeds to cheese production, to affinage, to distribution, to safe food handling, to cutting cheese, to pairing cheese, and selling cheese. So again, this covers a lot. And this is where the requirement that we're going to have for you to be able to take this exam, you're going to have worked in the field for a while. And that's part of it. And it's our goal that if you've worked in the cheese industry for a certain amount of time, then hopefully you've gained a few skills where maybe you've ordered, received, you've cut cheese, maybe you've sold cheese, written a sales sheet. But I do want to just reiterate the fact that when all this is said and done, this is a certification to measure all aspects of the cheese industry. Okay, so requirements for the certification. Requirements now are you're going to need 4,000 hours of work experience in cheese profession during the past 6 years. So to cut that into it, if you are a full-time person, whether you're in sales, distribution, production, farming, cheesemonger, if you are touching the cheese product, making cheese product, and if you've worked full-time for at least 2 years, you're good. A lot of you out there that are taking this exam probably have worked in cheese quite a bit longer than that. I worked in cheese 13 years before I even got to sit down and take the test. So that's part of it. And if you need to know more, again, go to the website. I always direct people back to cheesesociety.org. Always go there. It's easy. It's an easy website to navigate to help you find all these things. And here there's the certification eligibility criteria. Got it all there for you. I'm just reading what you would see if you visited the website. So calculating your hours of experience, sometimes maybe you work a little bit in cheese and a little bit doing something like this. So 4,000 hours equal 40 hours a week times 50 weeks times 2 years. Again, 2 years of experience, full-time work. Over the past 6 years, on the 6 calendar years. If your job did not relate directly to cheese 100% of the time, then you got to prorate those hours to reflect the time that you actually worked within cheese. Detailed documentation need not be presented at the time of application, but it is subject to random audit. And with this, we just want to make sure that people who are sitting for the exam are qualified in the fact that they're working in the industry. This is not an enthusiast exam. This is an exam for people who have been working in the industry and want to take that step up to earn the certification. Okay, so prior to the exam, pay close attention to emails from ACS. You got to apply for the exam. Go to the ACS website, AmericanCheeseSociety.org. Go there and you can apply for the exam. Easy to find that link to get there. It's open right now, and enrollment is through the end of March. So you've got time. But I'm going to tell you something. Don't wait for the last minute. If you sit back, wait for the last minute, I know it's easy to put something off and say, well, I'll do it. I've got to March to get this going. Sometimes you may miss a deadline, or even we may max out as far as being able to fill the room for the exam, and you may have to defer to next year just because there's not space to sit in the exam. So please go ahead and apply, and that way you can go through the application process, learn early if you're ready, if you have been accepted or not, so you can start studying. And if you're not ready for the exam, you can defer. You can apply for the exam, start studying, realize that maybe you've taken on a new job responsibility, or things are going on in your life that may require you to say, hey, I need to put the brakes on this for a minute. I'd rather take it next year. You can do that. But after June 1st, you're going to have to pay a fee. That's all. We got people working behind the scenes trying to keep all this organized. So please help follow all these deadlines. Let's see. Besides this, I want to forgot to mention one thing. I apologize. Make sure you check your spam and junk mail folders. This is something that's as I'm continuing to work through emails all the time. If you don't see anything from ACS, everybody's got a junk folder that it may just automatically somehow have got sent to that. So you may have to scour and make sure that you put it in your priority box so that you're getting all the emails from ACS. I promise we communicate quite a bit, so you should definitely have those. All righty. And if you're unsure whether you paid, you can contact ACS. If there's any issues, there's wonderful people there to help you out. As a CCP exam taker, you can get a $100 discount on the full conference registration, starting with regular conference registration starting on March 15th. So taking the exam, if you plan to go to the conference to take the exam instead of virtual, then you can get a discount. ACS is really doing their best to help work with everybody, help you budget for this exam. All righty. Now, great, wonderful. You're here, you've been accepted. How do I prepare? Again, this is a certification, not a certificate. In a certificate, you would get a booklet and a pamphlet and an instructor like me, and I'd read you through there and you take a test at the end of it. This isn't how this works. Here, you're going to have to take a step up and do some studying. But again, everything that you need to find as far as good direction on where to go to study is found at cheesesociety.org. You're going to hear that all day long. But they have an American Cheese Society resources page where you can download the cheese definition and categories. That's always good to know. I tell people who study for the exam, it's good to know the way that the American Cheese Society categorizes cheese if you're going to take an exam from the American Cheese Society. Also, they provide for you a lexicon and glossary. That way, everybody's definitions are on the same page. That's something I feel that's important because I have a cheesemonger background myself, and we had terms that my friends and I, workmates, we would use on the counter for cheese that we use. Maybe we made them up, but that wouldn't fly on an exam. So make sure you're getting your strict definitions from this lexicon and glossary. Then they have the body of knowledge. I'm going to show you that here in just a moment, as well as best practice guide for cheesemakers. That is a wonderful booklet. This is everything here you can download on PDF to your computer. You can read it at your leisure. I, myself, being an old timer, I like to print materials out and highlight and make notes and use pens. That's just the way I operate. Find the best way that you operate for studying. Some people love looking at computer screens. I prefer not to look at a computer screen as much as possible. So I have printouts, and they're dog-eared now. Love reading through it. Then, of course, they have the Safe Cheesemaking Hub. All of these resources you can download. They've got it for you. A significant amount of information is found in all of these. So if you're looking for a place to start at the website. Then, of course, I don't think I want you to do more, and I want to drive you to study more and study with people. And this is where it may be a little bit difficult. You're like, okay, so where do I get into a study group? Who is this, that, and the other? Number one, if you're in the industry, I would tell you to ask your cheese distributor if they offer a study course. I know many distributors out there have wonderful instructors. There are instructors out there that will happily pull you into their trainings and get you into a study group where you can work with other people. And it may take a little bit of legwork, but also you can search you're on Facebook right now. There's Facebook groups for this. But make sure whoever you're following, make sure that they're using proper materials and, of course, driving you to the website as much as possible so that you're getting relevant information and not just because some things out there, if you find nilly-willy, they could have the wrong information. Stick to the website. And then this is how I studied, and this is how I work with people when they study. This is the advice I give that's tried and true. Dedicate at least 4 hours a week to reading and studying or tasting at minimum. This is where, again, I was in the industry for 13 years, loved cheese, worked around, sold tons of cheese, literally myself, had trained people. But I had to sit back and read and study. This is a multiple choice test that you're going to be taking. So there is a lot more memorization and learning of facts. So if you take your time and read and study a little bit every week, then you're going to be good to go. Maybe you want to read for an hour on Tuesday, half an hour on Wednesday. Maybe you want Thursday off and read for an hour on Friday and a little bit on the weekend. Break it up however you want. But please dedicate some time to go over this and you'll feel very confident. Make flashcards from the lexicon and glossary. Again, there's the definitions. They're going to be on the test. Not every one of them, but they're going to pull from that lexicon and glossary. Make flashcards. The fact that you're writing things down, you say it out loud, you hear it, work with friends, work with your family, your loved ones to ask you questions and quiz you on your flashcards. It's a huge help. And then I'm going to offer some these books I know are in the queue as far as being recommended for great books to help you prepare. for the exam. These are just 3 wonderful books I'm going to personally call out. The Oxford Companion to Cheese. Great book. A lot of information in there. Mastering Cheese by Max McCallum. Another good book. Cheese and Culture by Paul Kensett. If you see anything that Paul Kensett writes, I would read it. Go through it. And you may be thinking, well, that's a lot. Look at all those definitions, reading the books. Yeah, it is. You're studying for a certification. It's going to take a lot of your time. Everybody that I remember going through the exam, I studied with a group of people. We quizzed each other. We were on the phone. We were on video calls, spending time together. It was a very stressful, but very happy time in my life. And I made great lifelong friends from having cheese friends to study with. You bump into people, you can meet people at a food show. Excellent. So this is how I suggest to get started. And just with this one page that you see on the screen, that's a significant amount of information. If you start here, this is a great guide for you to get going. And here's just what you'll see when you go to the study resources page. So cheesesociety.org, certification handbook. So if you go to certification handbook, they're going to provide this for you. This is what the best practice guide for cheesemakers look like. I think it's been updated in 2017, so I think it's due. It's going to be another update coming, but still great way to study. And that's what the lexicon and glossary looks like. Just the front covers. If you see these, download them, use them. They will be very helpful. And here is the exam blueprint. So this is it's so colorful, and it's got a wheel on it. I love it. Let's get a closer look. And now we can see that it looks like a fun chart. It reminds me of the original Zelda game on NES when you look at the map from above. But here they break it down into the 11 domains. So looking at looking at the left side, top left, health regulations and food safety, operations, cheese history, definitions, and categorization. Definitions and categorization, I just told you where to find the pamphlets with all those answers in it. So that's on the website for you. Milk, that's going to be in Best Practice Guide for Cheesemakers and some of the books I mentioned. Cheese making, ripening, assessment and evaluation, selling and transporting. I found a lot of selling and transporting in the Best Practice Guide for Cheesemakers, quite honestly. Selling, inventory management, service, and business principal practices. So that's in there. Then if you go across the top, let's take a look at this. So the task areas. So here we have business practices, 25 questions. They tell you 25 questions on the exam are going to be about business practices. And then you go over to procuring product. 15 questions are going to be about procuring product. And if you see the colors that are down there, of course, they line up with where you need to go to look for that. That's inventory management, looking at that. Also, we're going to have receive product. So receiving product, 13 questions. Managing inventory is 24 questions. Selling product is 48 questions. That's huge. And this could be selling product, not just from a cheesemonger standpoint, this covers everything from a cheesemaker selling at a farmer's market to a distributor selling to even brokers then to cheesemongers. So it covers everybody. And you see that they're found in a lot of that. You need to know regulations for selling cheese. You need to know operations. So there's a big bucket right there. And then, of course, we have food safety practices. And there's going to be 25 questions on that. When I work with anybody taking the exam, I try to explain the fact that since this is an exam to cover the entire industry, think about how important when you're studying and you come across a definition or a word, how many different aspects of the industry does it reach? Food safety goes from farming all the way to the consumer eating the product. So to me, that's extremely important. And anything you see about salmonella, botulism, all of that stuff is very important, and you want to read and know all of that. So make sure that if you see it that affects every aspect of the business, it's probably going to be on the test. So this is your exam blueprint. Go through this. It will help you kind of narrow down specific areas where maybe you come from the food safety side and you're like, you know what? I'm a food safety guru. I know all about it. Good for you. Then study the other things. I would still review it, but kind of focus on, well, I'm good at selling cheese, or I know all about the history of cheese. That's great. That's wonderful. That means you can spend more time studying on the areas you may not know. Great tool. You will find this at cheesesociety.org. Okay. Now the exam itself. So you've applied, you've gone to the website several times, you've downloaded your information, you've started studying, you found a study group. Oh my goodness. And you may have looked online for videos and webinars, and you feel good. And it's exam day. What to expect? Okay. So this is a 150 question multiple choice test exam. So 150 questions on this exam. You're going to have 3 hours to take this exam. There's 4 possible answers for each question. We're going to do a couple of practice questions here in a minute, so don't worry. Some math is required. Dad nabbit, just like everything else in life, there's going to be math involved. Some of us don't do calculations every day in our lives. Some of us do that, but cost of goods, fat and dry matter, you're going to need to know a few formulas for this. And also know that temperatures, they're displayed in both Fahrenheit and Celsius. They're not going to trick you with that. This is where we Americans, of course, we're stuck in the old science ways, so to speak. So we go by Fahrenheit. Everybody else in the world goes by Celsius. They're going to be put together on the exam. Then that's not going to trick you. They're not going to say Fahrenheit is this degree and Celsius is this degree and figure that out. Don't worry about it. They'll give you that. And I'll show you an example here in a second. This is also about European and American cheeses. So besides learning about animals, learning about the breeds of animals, learning about, cheese making, it's American cheeses as well as European cheeses. There would be no American cheeses right now if there weren't great American or great European cheeses that came along with the wonderful immigrants as everybody was moving into the United States. So know the big dogs, as I call them. If you've heard of Roquefort, Comté, Gruyere, Parmigiano Reggiano, those cheeses that Manchego, world-renowned cheeses, I would get to know those. I would think those are important. The test isn't going to be geared to ask you about the most esoteric cheese that's out there. They're not going to mention one cheese from a small village on a mountain in Italy that you've never seen. No, they're going to ask you about cheeses you should know. Okay. The questions and answers are randomized. Let's see. This is cool. It's offered in person at the conference in July, or you may take it virtual. And I think this is something that's wonderful to the fact that, those of us who are looking at our budgets, who may be a little tight this year, if you want to take the exam, you don't have to go to the conference. You don't have to travel to Buffalo. You don't have to get an airline ticket, a hotel for the week, food for the week. You can pay the exam fee and help keep it minimized. And I think that's a wonderful thing that ACS has done, is being able to offer this virtually. It's going to be held, though, at exactly the same time as the in-person exam. So it's still going to be the same date and the same time. Of course, the exam is proctored. That means if you're in person at the exam, you'll probably see my lovely face, as I am on the certification committee and love this certification. I will be in the room with several others, and we're going to be there to hand you a packet with a booklet, with a test, Scantron sheet, a pencil, and a calculator. You're not going to be able to take anything into the room. We check you will not be able to bring a telephone, a smartwatch, books or notes or a purse or bag. We want you to leave everything behind. We'll have a coat check. If you happen to travel with everything, we'll ask you to leave that in there. You just need to show up with yourself and a great positive attitude, and we'll have the rest for you. If you're taking this exam virtually, you'll need to have up-to-date software. You will need to have a computer with a video screen, where you take video and sound. You can tell I'm an old timer here using old terminology, but you will have to have it up to date, and you will run a test run if you take it virtually. So just be prepared for that. If that's an option for you, you're going to need new systems on your computer. All right. So example question 1. Here we go. Let's just see what this is going to be like. And when I'm reading this, it's going to be a question. I get it. But something to think about too is it's not just cheese knowledge that you're being tested on. Like for me, when I took this exam, I was in my upper 30s and I hadn't taken a test or an exam in probably 2 decades, like a long time. So part of this is knowing how and taking multiple choice tests. So that's part of it too. If you can master being good at taking multiple choice and you know the material, you're going to be wonderful. So let's say here, at what temperature and time does the pasteurized milk ordinance, PMO, specify for vat pasteurization? Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Could it be A, 143 degrees Fahrenheit? And this is what I mean. Fahrenheit and Celsius, they will live together. That's not there to trick you. Those are facts. 143 degrees Fahrenheit is 62 degrees Celsius. So don't worry about that. But you're going to get different ones. Okay, so here we go. We've got some higher temperatures. We've got some low times, some high temperatures, long times. You're going to have to know this material. I think I saw this in the cheesemaker manual that I've been talking about on the website. They have all this there. So what do we do here? We would need to know, number one, we want to make sure that we're figuring out what's from the pasteurized milk ordinance. There could be some other temperature set by another ordinance, and vat pasteurization. So pasteurization of milk, and this is a good point too, it's a big deal in the cheese industry. It's raw or pasteurized, and pasteurization is a huge deal. So pasteurization affects everybody in the chain. So something like this is highly likely going to be on the test. But what is it? Oh my gosh. Let's start out like we don't know. Is it? These all are pasteurization numbers, but how can we get this? How can we get this better? Let's see. We know it's not 143. It's 145. And this is something where, for me, I say mark out what you don't know. But if you came into this blind, I would want to make sure that I'm studying this up. And this is what I mean by memorizing facts. This is where you may taste a lot of cheese and make some beautiful cheese boards and have a big impact on social media. Thank you. And that's great. But for this exam, you're going to need to memorize a lot of facts. And this is one to get to. All right. There we go. So we even have task area, business practices. It's there. All right. Now, another question. That was one with a lot of numbers in it, trying to memorize about pasteurization. If you're taking the test, I would know all the pasteurization numbers. Now, question 2. When receiving a Poisse cheese, what visual aspects should you inspect to ensure the quality of the cheese? Okay, number 1, you got to know what a Poisse is. A Poisse, it's a very famous cheese. It's so stinky you can't take it in French public transportation. I would call a Poisse one of the big dogs in the world, one of the big cheeses out there. So you need to know what that is. So I'm going to start this by, so I need to know what it is. What is it? A Poisse is a small wash rind cheese from France. So wash rind cheeses, what do I know about them? They're a little bit softer. They could be a little bit runny, a little bit gooey, and it's going to have an orange rind and a pungent smell. Okay. Here, they're not asking about smells. They ask about what visual aspects. So if I know a Poisse, I'm looking at it in my mind. I'm seeing that beautiful orange rind, and I'm seeing it in that beautiful little wooden box that it's in, the circular box. So let's see is it free of dust mites or cracking? I would hope every cheese that gets to me would be free of dust mites and cracking. consistent wax or cryovac seal. So this is what's called a distractor. When going through multiple choice tests, you can look through. They're not trying to trick you, but there are distraction answers that could be like, okay, so consistent wax, I definitely want to see that, and I want to see a cryovac seal. But if you know what a POS is, you know that it doesn't have wax, and it shouldn't be cryovac. That little sucker would die if it were cryovac. So I know just by reading the second one, absolutely not the answer. So I'm going to toss that one. I'm going to get my pencil and I'm going to mark that out. Free of broken rind and pooling of liquid cheese. Okay, so what should I inspect to ensure the quality of the cheese? Free of broken rind and pooling liquid of cheese. That one makes more sense to me for this cheese. I wouldn't want it cracked or broken. If it had a broken rind, I would think that it's getting so gooey that it's just going to run everywhere. That's a possible answer for me. And then consistency in the fluffy, consistency in the white fluffy rind. It doesn't have white fluffy rind. I know what a POS is. Even if I've never tasted or seen it, if I'm going through some books and seeing some pictures, I would know. So I can mark that out. So I know I've got two. B and D are absolutely not the answer. And I'm going to just throw A away because I don't feel like that's the answer at all, because a POS is going to be dealing mainly with a broken rind and pooling of liquid cheese. And what is it? There we go. It is C. So again, that one, some of you may be watching this and be like, of course, everybody knows what a POS is. Some of you may not know it. But that is the mindset that I try to get across to exam takers is take your time, read the question, throw out what is not the answer, and go through and minimize. So I took away two, which left me with two answers to choose from, which I had a quarter of a chance. Now I had at least a 50-50 chance of getting it right by answering at least one of those. So this is a good example of how to think about when you're reading these tests. All righty. Cheese history, definitions, and categorization. Now, oh my goodness, this one's kind of difficult. This is something that, some of you may be math wizards, and bless you if you are, because that's great for you. I have to work a little bit at it. How many ounces of fat are there in a 1 pound cheese of 65% moisture content, 70% fat, and dry matter? Oh, goodness. I'm looking at that now. So before I get deep into that, I'm going to tell you an example of what I did when I was taking the exam that helped me. I know I can only speak for myself. I went through the exam, 150 questions. I read through the exam and answered when I knew 100% what I knew was right. So out of the 150 questions, I just went through the whole exam, answered exactly what I knew that I had no question about. And it was less than half of the questions. So I was like, oh, goodness. But what that did was that left fewer questions for me then to spend more time with. And then I would mark through what I didn't know, and I'd give a good guess. If I could mark out two of the answers and only left me with two, I had a better chance of getting that right. And for myself, I saved the math for last. That is just me, because I had time to use my pencil and the booklet paper, and I was able to memorize the equations, write the equations on the paper, and I would work at it at that. I knew I had everything else answered and ready to go, because there's not a tremendous amount of math questions, but there will be several. And that's how I approached it. Here's the answer, but let's see how we calculate this. So 1 pound of cheese equals 16 ounces. 16 ounces in a pound. Okay, we got that. So we take 1 minus 0.65, which is the moisture content, equals 0.35 of dry matter. So we have 16 ounces times 0.35 of dry matter times 0.70 of fat, and that equals 3.92 ounces. So that is a way to do it. And some of you may need to study more about that. That's just the way it goes. Okay. Post-exam day. Let's keep looking at here and see. So certified cheese professionals will be announced approximately 30 to 45 days after the exam. there's a little bit of a waiting period for your exam to come back. So why is that? You'll find whether you passed or not basically in the middle of September, more than likely. So why does it take so long to award the certification? Well, they analyze each question in the aggregate, and then they develop a passing score. So there's not a straight or established percentage for passing. This isn't you got 150 questions, you must get 100 questions right to pass. That's not the way it goes. Questions, answers, and statistics for each question, they're reviewed by a consultant to maintain integrity for the exam. So there could be an example, because we have a question writing committee that work diligently on coming up with great questions for the exam. Sometimes a question in the past may have been put on there twice. So it's like, oh, well, we got to take one of those away. Sometimes there may be a question that may not be worded quite as well as it could be, and maybe a significant amount of people taking the exam did not get that right. We would want to look at that and, to strike that question because something about it may not have been fair. Okay. So they'll work on that. And what they also do will let you know personally before any public announcements. And they will share the pass-fail results with you. If you do not pass, you will get to see which sections of the exam blueprint you should focus on. So you don't necessarily get your exam back to be able to kind of review it, but you will get a message back saying you need to work more in this specific area, this domain, and that's still very helpful. And we respect your privacy, so we don't share a list of exam takers or names who did not pass. This isn't a you passed, you didn't. There will be an announcement and then a list of people who did pass. If you didn't, you won't be called out, but you know what? Don't get discouraged. I know loads of people who studied, who worked really hard, been in the industry for a while, who quite honestly may not have been the best test takers. And that's something about this too, is they weren't the best test takers. It had been maybe 3 or 4 decades since they've taken a test. And it happens sometimes. But you know what? Everybody I knows that got, picked themselves up off the ground and studied and took it again were able to pass. So this is a chance where, again, you got to study and we'll do what we can to help you out. Okay. ACS Certified Cheese Professional. So what now? You did pass. All right. We did pass here. What happens now? Well, you're going to get a lapel pin, patch for your jacket. Look at that guy in that picture. He's got a patch on his jacket. Loving it. And an electronic certificate. So you will get to pass. You will get to print out your certificate for this certification. And you'll get specs for logo use on business cards and stationery. You'll get to put the certified logo on your email, which I think is fun. I like using that. You will get added to the database of CCP on the American Cheese Society website. You'll get promotion via press releases and ads in magazines. So that's what specifically will happen. You'll get a packet, and that's great. But what about, on the job? This is something where if you are watching this right now and wanting to take the exam, this certification brings you up a level. This is where I was trying to elaborate it to a potential exam taker that I spoke to the other day. And the way I'm trying to look at it is, think about it in one way. If you were a server at a nice restaurant recommending wine, that's great. But once you have your sommelier, you're the expert. That's who they go to. So this is a way, if you work in a store, if you, especially if you're a cheesemonger, that means you're going to get to wear this patch. You're going to get to talk to customers and they'll say, why do you have this patch? You get to explain it. Your workmates will get to know that you've worked and studied and you are the cheese expert. I'll tell you from experience, you will be responsible for taking cheese boards to every family gathering after this. You're going to be the go-to cheese nerd, which is great. You're going to join a very elite family of cheese professionals. If you are a salesperson, what if you're a salesperson working for a distributor? I would see you if I were a buyer for a retail chain, or if I were buying product from you. If you have, say, as a salesperson, had your CCP, I would trust you more. I would take your word and buy more cheese from you. So it does end up being more. And if you're an employer that is out there, I would venture to say, make sure you give these people a pay bump. I have seen this in other areas where some people are able to take this exam, pass it, earn the certification, and then they get a pay bump at work. And it's a huge, huge sense of pride, because you will be with a family of us cheese folk, and we all will be speaking the same language of love for cheese. Okay, now we've got, let's see, here's some nitty gritty. I just put this on the last slide, make sure we're getting the actual facts here. When is this? Wednesday, July 10th, from 1 to 4 p.m. That's going to be at the conference in Buffalo, New York in July. So big time. This is where you can plan to take it, unless you're taking it virtually. It's not going to be, if you take it virtually, it will still be July 10th from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home or your office, wherever you have a beautifully quiet space to work at. But if you get to come to the conference, it's also an amazing time. After the exam, if you take the exam and you sit for the exam and you turn it in, right afterwards there'll be a big party. Quite honestly, I think we call it a reception. A reception is a nice word for party, but you'll be able to relax a little bit, be able to talk it out, make more friends in cheese, and have a good time. That happens right after the test. You'll have to party by yourself if you take it virtually, or you can call me up and I'll virtually party with you after you take the exam. Now, to apply, I mentioned that again, you have to go to cheesesociety.org to apply. This $35, non-refundable application fee. That's standard. The cost of the exam is $500 for ACS members and $650 for non-ACS members. That may seem a little high. I'm aware that we cheesemongers are not mega millionaires. That's not why we get into this industry. We get into it for the love of what we do, but we do need to strive and survive. $500 may be a lot. This is something you can save up for. There are some businesses out there that sponsor people, but there's also some scholarships available. That's something I wanted to point out. That is, scholarships are starting to grow. There's some great people, great businesses out there that have thrown some money out there to make sure that those in need, those who have a desire, but maybe not the means, do have the opportunity to take this exam. And again, if you take it virtually, then you're foregoing the expense of travel, of hotel, of paying for the conference. So there is a good way to kind of manage that money. And I feel like the American Cheese Society has done a great job of working diligently to make it more affordable. The exam fee is due in full by May 15th, 2024. To keep your seat. So you got to pay. This is a thing. You got to make sure you pay and hopefully you show up for it. Applications will be accepted from January 16th until March 31st. So we're in the middle right now of application time. And I'd love to stress again, do it now. Don't wait. Waiting and procrastinating. It's like, I'll get to it. Maybe you'll lose the fire that's inside of you that's driving you to take this exam. Go ahead and apply. And again, you can apply and then decide before June if something happens in your life and you're like, you know what, I wasn't able to study. I couldn't do this, or something happened, or we had a child, and my life is chaos. You can defer. And like, even if you've paid for the exam, you can defer to next year. ACS will keep that money, keep your seat, and you'll be ready to go. So just remember that. Okay, and for those of us who are certified, certification lasts for 3 years. So you get to hold this certification for 3 years, and then you need to recertify. And that's standard with pretty much every certification out there. It's only good for so long. The main thing is we want to make sure that you're still in the industry, still with us. And I think it's just a $75 fee for 3 years. And you just have to prove that you're still working in the industry. A lot of times people will leave, maybe go to a different career, whatever. But all the recertification requirements are on the ACS website, which is what? AmericanCheeseSociety.org. Excellent. One thing I passed over quickly, and I apologize, but in the application process, I do want to announce that there was a change to the application process. We no longer require a high school education or GED to take this exam. We are working diligently to make sure that this exam is available to everybody from any standpoint. Okay, perfect. Now, I timed that pretty good. I left a little bit of time for questions. Does anybody out there have any questions about the Certified Cheese Professional exam? Happy to answer while I'm here. If I can't answer, we've got some staff members on here who maybe can, or I'm happy to take a note and try to get back to you. All right. I'm not seeing much.
Thanks, Nathan. We've had a lot of engagement and we've got quite a few folks watching, but I'm not seeing any questions at this point. So if you do have questions, let us know in the chat, please. Lots of Nathan Aldridge love as well.
Oh, well, hey, everybody. My goodness, I work so hard and I'll keep talking until you come up with questions. But if you're sitting on the fence, and you've been like, I want to take the test, I don't know, do it. Just do it. There are ways out there to study. You can. It's a frustrating time. I'm going to tell you, from the time I took it, I remember studying and working with study partners, and I've worked on a couple of different groups and kind of advised a few people how to take the exam before. And I've talked to so many exam takers, and they've been so stressed out. And afterwards, the sense of accomplishment that all of us receive from doing this it's life-changing. Quite honestly, and I may sound silly talking about that, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I challenge everybody that has the experience to jump into it. If you're a new cheesemonger or just a cheese enthusiast, hold up. You need to work in the industry for a little while. You need to be a professional. But if you've been working in cheese, again, no matter if you're a cheese maker, cheesemonger, dairy farmer, distributor, salesperson, broker, it's for all of us. We are all on one team fighting for great cheese. Look at there. No questions. Okay, still.
No questions. So Nathan, we're so grateful to you for taking the time out to give everyone all these updates. Jamie, did you have anything that you wanted to address before we sign off?
Yeah, I just wanted to tag on to what Nathan was saying about applying earlier. So the earlier you apply, the earlier you'll hear back. So our guideline is you'll hear back within 30 days, but if you apply sooner, you'll hear back sooner because fewer people apply early, and I can get to those quicker. So apply early, you'll hear back early, and then you have more time to prepare knowing that you've been accepted.
Thank you for that reminder. It looks like there's some chatter about trying to get together for some study groups. So yes, please feel free to use our page to connect, and would love for everyone to be able to get information about available study groups through any channels that we've got. So other than that, I think we are all set, and I'm not seeing any other questions. So Nathan, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. And as always, if you have any questions about certification or anything ACS related, as Nathan mentioned a few times, once or twice, our website is cheesesociety.org, and our email address is info@cheesesociety.org. And then Jamie's listed her personal email as well, which you can direct any certification related questions directly to her. So thanks so much for joining us, and have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.